Hello students, welcome to the Institute for Humanities. Today we start our course on NET-JRF Paper 2 Political Science targeting December 2025 exam. Before I start with the first lecture of the course, let us go through the course features. So in this program, what we typically do is, we have divided the entire syllabus as NTA has given us into 10 units. For each unit, what we will be giving you is lectures, PDF notes with each lecture, then previous year questions with each lecture, mock test for each unit mentioned in the syllabus, then full length mock test, Zoom sessions with the faculty, as well as regular mentorship. My name is Vatsal Chaudhary. I am your mentor for this program as well as your course coordinator. Whenever you feel like that you need to discuss anything regarding this course, even if you are a student enrolled in the course or you wish to enroll for the course, you can directly connect with me on WhatsApp on this number 844-833-2719. This is my WhatsApp number. You can directly connect with me on this number and discuss whatever you wish to. Now, these are the what I told you were the features of the course. These are the 10 units. Today, what we'll be starting with is the first unit, that is the political institutions in India. In political institutions in India, the very first topic that is mentioned in the syllabus is making of the Indian Constitution. So this is our topic for the day. So many times students ask me that, sir, before reading the Constitution, why do we need to study whatever happened during the British era? Why don't we directly jump onto what is written in our Constitution? Students often find it unnecessary to read these constitutional developments in a historical manner. Whenever a student picks up his Lakshmikant book, his D.D. Basu book, they say, sir, why can't I directly jump onto the fundamental rights? Why can't I just study the citizenship and the union and its territory directly? So this thing, why we need to study these acts? So like D.D. Basu starts with 1858 Act, yeah, like Lakshmikant starts with 1773 Act. All this is necessary because here how D.D. Basu has mentioned makes it very clear. D.D. Basu starts his book with that the very fact that the Constitution of India, Indian Republic, is the product not of a political revolution. Now what do you mean by not of a political revolution? By Indian independence movement to ho hi raha tha na. Then why are we saying that it is not the result of a political revolution? Because it was not in the form like American Revolution, French Revolution, where the government is thrown in a day and then the constitution is made. Rather what it was the result of research and deliberation of a body of eminent representatives. What is this body of eminent representatives? Here we are talking about Constituent Assembly. Constituent Assembly. But then you will ask, sir, ki Constituent Assembly to came into existence when Britishers were living in India in 1946 only. Then why are we studying 1773? It is because this Constituent Assembly, what they did, these were the people who sought to improve upon the existing system of administration. Now, this existing system of administration did not come in a single day. It is a continuous process of evolution. How acts in a country gets developed, how rules in a country gets developed. So from 1773 to 1793 to 1813, 1833, then 1850, continuously things were getting developed and changed. And in that process only our Constituent Assembly gave us this constitution. So that is why it makes the retrospective study of the constitutional development indispensable for the proper understanding of the constitution. What it becomes? Indispensable to study retrospectively of how the constitutional development took place in India. So let us start. Understand, it's not just about mugging up facts कि 1773 में ये हुआ, 1793 में ये हुआ. You should always know the story behind these things. हो क्या रहा था exactly? Why it happened? So to begin with, these small facts you must be knowing. 1600 East India Company got exclusive rights to in India by the charter given by Queen Elizabeth I. Then apart from that, Britishers arrived in India 1608. Then in 1765, company got the Diwani rights. What are these Diwani rights? Let us understand this. So basically, you all must be knowing there were two famous battles. One was the Battle of Plassey, 1757. Another was Battle of Buxar. Battle of Buxar, 1764, where Britishers won. And what was its result? That Robert Clive, after becoming victorious, he is also known as what? Clive of India. Robert Clive came up with a dual system. Now, what was this dual system? So, Robert Clive came up with this dual government system where he divided Nizamat, that is the law and order, and Diwani, that is revenue and civil justice. So ये दीवानी राइट्स जब हम कहते हैं that British got the दीवानी rights in 1765. What is it? These rights are the right to collect the revenue. Now, after the Britishers got these rights, one important event happened in the history of India. You find it's mentioned in Anand Math also by Bankim Chand Chatterjee. You find it's mentioned in various writings of Amartya Sen also. What was it? Some say it started in 1769, some say in 1770s, but near roughly in this area, in the late 1760s or 1770s, early 1770s, what happened was the Great Bengal Famine. And because of the Great Bengal Famine, the result was that there was a huge resentment. Huge resentment for what? For the company's policies. Huge resentment for what the company has been doing. And British government knew what is happening in India. And they did not want to lose this market. Also, they got an opportunity. Opportunity of what? Opportunity of interfering in the internal affairs of the government. Now, how would they interfere in the internal affairs of the government? What they did was, they sent Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings was sent to India and he started taking measures to correct the image of the East India Company, or what we can say, to interfere in the affairs of the company. So what basically he did was, first he abolished the dual system, got everything in his control. Then secondly, and more importantly, what he did was he declared the company insolvent, and then British government extended the loan to the company. And as you all are aware, like it happened in the case of Pakistan also, it happens in the case of most of the countries in today's world also, when you are under loan, or it can happen in the case of a private company, it can happen in the case of an individual person. पैसा लिया है किसी से अगर, तो उसके हिसाब से फिर काम भी करना होता है. We declared the company insolvent, extended loan to the company, and British government starting interfering in the internal affairs of the company. So what it started? A series of acts started, which started with the Act of 1773. So Regulating Act of the 1773 was the first act after this Warren Hastings just went away with this dual government system. The government came up with the 1773's Regulating Act. And what they did in this act was, this was the first act. It recognized the administrative and political functions of what? The company. तो कंपनी के पॉलिटिकल फंक्शंस को, एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शंस को रिकॉग्नाइज किया, एंड द गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल बिकेम द गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल, गवर्नर ऑफ बंगाल की जगह हो गया गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल. Who was this first governor general? Warren Hastings. Again the same person. So in the exam there will be at times questions who was the first governor general of Bengal. Then there will be question who was the first governor general of India. Then there will be question who was the first viceroy of India. Then there will be question who was the last viceroy of India. Then there will be question who was the first governor general of independent India. Then who is the last governor general of independent India. These are all those questions that can be answered from today's notes. We will be discussing each one by one, but you have to know all of them. So do not study it in a linear manner ki 73 mein ye, 23 mein ye. Try to understand and develop a story around it. So governor of Bengal, when it becomes the governor general of Bengal, what actually happens is that governors of Madras and Bombay, they become subordinate to it. So Madras and Bombay became this subordinate. So what used to happen earlier was there was 3 separate presidencies: governor of Bengal, governor of Madras, governor of Bombay. Now when the governor of Bengal becomes the governor general of Bengal, automatically Bombay and Madras comes under it. From this act only Supreme Court of Calcutta was established, and there were some other things also like prohibition of private trade, corruption, etc. After that, this is also one important factor of the 1773 Act, that there was executive council. The governor general was assisted by a council. Council had 4 members. The decision was taken by majority. Now you will have to understand, every time I mention the word council, you have to understand and focus on 2-3 things. One, focus on members kitne hai. Then you focus on whether I am talking about the legislative council or the executive council. Then you focus upon who is having the power, whose power is increasing. So right now what you are seeing, decision is by majority. If the decision is by majority, governor's power is not that much. What is happening is he is lacking the overriding powers. He only had a casting votes. 4 members hai, 2-2 ho gaya, so governor will say ki I have the final word. Understand? So this was the 1773's Act. In the first Act, the governor was assisted by a council of 4 members. The decision was taken by majority, and the governor general will be having casting vote only. He doesn't have overriding powers. Understood? After the 1773 Act, in the 1780s, 3 acts came. One was the amending act of this 1781, then other was the Pitt's India Act 1784, and then there was Act of 1786 that was specifically for Cornwallis, Lord Cornwallis. What was the 1781 Act? Primarily it was associated with the judiciary. So it exempted the Governor General and Council from the jurisdiction of Supreme Court. First thing, for all the acts that he was carrying out in the official capacity only. तो official capacity में Governor General जो भी कर रहा है उससे exempt कर दिया गया. Then jurisdiction over all inhabitants of Calcutta. Personal laws, Hindus and Mohammedan law will be administered by the Supreme Court. It excluded revenue matters from the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. Then there were appeals from the provincial court will be taken by the Governor General in Council and not the Supreme Court. This was also one factor कि Supreme Court की जगह Governor General in Council will be taking the appeal from the provinces. So what it essentially means is कि वो integrated नहीं है judiciary, वो Governor General Council लेगी कोई भी provincial court से जो भी हमारा appeal होगा. It was a simple act. You may remember it, may not remember it. There has not been much questions from it. The next comes is, from the JRF perspective, I'll tell you. From the NET-JRF exam perspective, the questions that have been asked in the exam are more from 1858 onwards rather than 1773 onwards. However, we'll always, while studying for this exam, we'll always study a layer deeper than what has been asked in the exam. Because on any given day, if the exam is harder than what it has been, so you are the one who will be succeeding. So we'll always study a layer deeper than it has been asked in the exam. You all must be knowing the cutoff this year was 234. When the cutoff is 234, what it essentially means is you need to target at least 240 marks. And then what it essentially means is that you need to target at least 160 out of 200 in paper 2 political science and 80 out of 100 in paper 1. That means you need to have 80% accuracy in both the papers. Then only you can think of clearing JRF. So you cannot miss any topic mentioned in the syllabus. You cannot miss any important detail. You cannot miss practicing mocks. You have to be on your toes. JRF is no longer an easy exam to clear. Trust me on this. Coming back to what we were studying. Then came the Pitt's India Act. What it did was it made a distinction. It made a distinction between the commercial and the political functions of the company. So a kind of dual government was established, where we had a court of directors for the commercial functions and a board of control for the political functions. Board of control had 6 members and all of them were appointed by whom? The king itself. So there will be, for commercial functions, there will be a court of directors, and for political functions, and what are political? Civil, revenue, military functions. इनके लिए what we will be having is a board of control. So what it essentially does, what this essentially does is it increases the surveillance over the company. In some way, it also increased the power of the Governor General, because the council now had only 3 members. So the lesser the numbers of council will have, the more power of the governor will increase. So in 70-73 Act we studied, there were 4 members in the council. Now from Pitt's India Act there are only 3 members in the council, including the commander-in-chief. For the first time it termed the company's territory in India as the British possessions in India. So you may be asked in the exam, in which act the territories of the company were called British possessions in India? It was Pitt's India Act. After the Pitt's India Act, the Act of 1786 came, and as I told you, it was for Lord Cornwallis. So Lord Cornwallis is a personality in himself. So when he came up with कि अरे हमारे हैं तो अपने terms पे आएंगे. So he gave 2 conditions to come, and one was he should be given the power to override the decision of the council. ठीक है, काउंसिल के डिसीजन को ओवरराइड करने की उनको परमिशन चाहिए थी. What we studied in 70-73 Act, that the Governor General is only having casting vote. He is not having the power to override the decision of the council. But 1786 Act gave it to Cornwallis. This was for Cornwallis specifically. Then Cornwallis also said that he would himself be the commander-in-chief. So these were the 2 conditions that he put, and they were accepted. So these were 3 acts of 1780s. Thereafter we will have the Charter Acts. So Charter Act of 1793 came. Now understand, with each Charter Act there will be one thing that will be removed from the company, and you will understand what I am saying one by one. So in this act, 1793's Act, the monopoly of the company is now being extended for the next 20 years. The first condition came that time is mentioned. However, the monopoly is extended, overall monopoly is extended, but for the next 20 years only. If you come to the 1813 Act, then it ended the monopoly of East India Company except tea and trade with China. तो अगेन 20 इयर्स के लिए एक्सटेंड किया, बट एक चीज हटा ली. क्या हटा लिया? पूरी मोनोपोली हटा दी, बस टी और ट्रेड विद चाइना के लिए छोड़ दी. देन व्हेन यू विल कम टू 1833, तो 1833 में क्या किया? इट एंडेड द ट्रेड मोनोपोली कंप्लीटली. कंपनी रूल वाज एक्सटेंडेड फॉर 20 इयर्स, बट ट्रेड मोनोपोली वाज कंप्लीटली रिमूव्ड. देन इन 1853 Now the time limit of the company rule was not even mentioned. तो अगर मैं in a nutshell बात करूं तो what essentially happened is 1793 trade monopoly extended. Monopoly भी extended and condition 20 years. Then 1813 में trade monopoly was over except tea and trade with China. चाइना और चाय को छोड़कर खत्म. Again 20 years के लिए extended. Then when it comes to 1833 तो trade monopoly completely ended और 20 years के लिए company rule was extended. Then when it comes to 1853 तो time was also not mentioned, बस company rule was extended, which was indication कि very soon the company rule may end and the British could directly rule. Will you forget this? Isn't it easy? For every 20 years this is happening. 1793, 1813, 1833, 1853 becomes easy. Now study other things related to these. So what essentially happened in the 1793 Act? The overriding powers that was given to Lord Cornwallis by the Special Act of 1786 that was extended to all the Governor Generals in future. Also, the Commander-in-Chief was not to be a member of Governor General Council. From now on, the Commander-in-Chief will not be a member of Governor General Council by default. He will only be a member if he will be appointed so. तो by default Commander-in-Chief member नहीं होगा. तो गवर्नर जनरल की पावर्स क्या हो रही हैं? बढ़ रही हैं. गवर्नर जनरल्स पावर आर इंक्रीजिंग and in that manner only he was given more control over the subordinate presidencies of Bombay and Madras. And one more thing, one important thing which also happened was, which was later protested by many Indian freedom fighters also, that the company's board of control and his staff started getting their salaries from the revenue of India. Indian revenue से सैलरी लेना शुरू कर दिया. ठीक है. This was what? Act of 1793. Then came Act of 1813. In 1813, one thing we have already studied. What is it? That it ended the monopoly of East India Company except tea and trade with China. Asserted the sovereignty of crown over the territories in India. Western education के लिए sum of 1 lakh was allotted. These are not so important things. Christian missionaries started to work and authorized the local government to tax persons. It did not only give the power to tax persons, but what it also gave is essentially the power to punish people who doesn't give tax. After that, what comes is the Act of 1833. You must be seeing that from 1773, the centralization has begun in the acts. How? The Governor General was made the Governor General of Bengal. Governor of Bengal was made the Governor General of Bengal in the 1773 Act. And subsequently, with each act, Governor General's power was increased. In the previous act also, the Act of 1813, he was given more powers over the subordinates of Madras and Bombay. Now, this was the final step in the centralizing trends in India, which started in 1773 and came to its culmination in 1833. So, the Governor General of Bengal was made the Governor General of India. Who was this? Lord William Bentinck. Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. Governor General of Bengal was made Governor General of India. What it exclusively means? What it essentially means? It means that Madras and Bombay has lost their legislative powers. Governor General of India is all supreme. He became what? The government of India. This is the government. Governor General was the head, and then his council became the government. Understand what I am saying? Governor General along with his council became the government of India. Governor General of Bengal became the Governor General of India. Who was this first person? William Bentinck. So we have studied two things till now. First Governor General of Bengal was Warren Hastings, and first Governor General of India is William Bentinck. We have studied it, ended the trade monopoly completely. It ended the complete commercial functions completely. So these are the two things you can understand together itself. कि ट्रेड मोनोपोली भी खत्म हो गई, कॉमर्शियल फंक्शंस भी खत्म हो गए. इट ओनली रिमेन्ड एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव बॉडी. It also mentioned that it provided the company's territories in India were held in trust of His Majesty, his heirs and successors. So this was the term that was used in the Act of 1833. Then President of the Board of Control as the Minister of India Affairs. This is one fact that you can remember. Then now new thing which you need to remember is a law member was added. Added where? Added to the Governor General's Council. When did Governor General's Council became a council of 3 members? I just told you. So in 1773 it was a 4-member council. In Pitt's India Act of 1784 it became a 3-member council. Now with a law member getting added, who was this member? Macaulay was added as a law member. The council became a 4-member council again. However, there were limited powers given to law member. He had no authority to sit and vote in council. Understood? Then Indian Law Commission was established. Lord Macaulay was the first chairman of this commission. Understand, Law Commission of where Macaulay was chairman and Macaulay Committee are two different things. Macaulay Committee was established in 1854. It was for the Indian Civil Services. Macaulay Committee, the Committee on Indian Civil Services was appointed in 1854. And this, the thing you were studying in 1833 was that Indian Law Commission was appointed in 1833. It was Lord Macaulay was the first chairman. It led to establishment, the administration was urged to take steps for the condition of slaves, led to abolishment of slavery in 1843. It was another thing. It attempted to introduce civil services open to all. It was not done actually. And later what we can see in 1853, that extended it, we got the company's rule extended, which we just studied. Company's rule was though extended, but it did not specify the period, indicating that the company rule can be terminated anytime. Britishers can themselves come and rule from the crown itself. So 20 साल करते हुए we have come to a situation where the time was not mentioned in 1853. Here the law member became the full member. What do we mean by full member? In the 1833 Act, what we studied was that law member had limited rights. He did not have right to sit and vote. Now law member has become a full member. So now we have a Governor General's Council of 4 full members. Understood? Now it separated the legislative and executive functions of the government. Now understand this thing. As of now we were studying till now the Governor General Council. What that council essentially meant was the Executive Council. With the addition of 6 new members called the Legislative Councillors, now we have one thing as the Legislative Council and one thing as the Executive Council. In the Legislative Council, what essentially it means is that 6 members is added to the Executive Council and that entire thing becomes the Legislative Council. There was an attempt to show that we have local representation, and as a result 4 out of 6 legislative councillors, ये जो 6 legislative councillors नए ऐड हुए हैं, in the council, for the legislative council, 4 out of 6 will be from the presidencies of Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. तो इन 4 प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट से दे विल बी अपॉइंटेड. अंडरस्टूड. तो अभी तक हमने क्या पढ़ा है? कि हम आ गए हैं 1853 तक. एंड टिल 1853 what we have come to is that from Governor General of Bengal in 1773 to Governor General of India in 1833 to the separation of the legislative and executive functions and having legislative council and executive councils in 1853. After that what happened? After that खूब लड़ी मर्दानी थी वो झांसी वाली रानी. So the revolt of 1857 took place. The Britishers understood that the company will no longer be able to rule India and they'll have to directly rule through the crown. Interestingly, what they mentioned here is it was the Government of India Act 1858 and also it was called the Act for the Good Government of India. What does this tell you? It tells you the benevolent despotism. What is it? Benevolent despotism. The white man burden theory. Despotism. That we will tell you how to be civilized. We'll tell you how to live. We'll tell you how to have a better government. We'll tell you how to have good government. So, what happened? The company rule was abolished. The East India Company was abolished and there will be the direct rule in the name of Her Majesty the Crown. The Governor General of India became Viceroy. Now you have to understand this thing. When I say that the Governor General of India becomes the Viceroy, does it mean that Governor General of India's position has been abolished? No. What it essentially means is that Governor General of India is also the Viceroy. The both positions remain. Sorry. So basically, Lord Canning was appointed as the first Viceroy of India, and being the first Viceroy of India, he also remains the Governor General of India. So, who was the first Governor General of India? He was William Bentinck. Who was the first Governor General of Bengal? He was Warren Hastings. Who is the first Viceroy of India? He is Lord Canning. The BOC and COD, Board of Control and Court of Directors, was abolished and the Secretary of State for India was introduced. Secretary of State was to be a member of the British Cabinet. He was assisted by a council of 15 members and the 15-member council was a advisory body. This is the Act of 1858. Thereafter, what we see is a bit more detailed constitutional development started taking place. Now with each act, the Indians will get more powers, maybe not substantial, but nominal ones. The powers of Indians, the representation of Indians will gradually keep on increasing with each step, and that is what you will see in the Councils Act of 1861, Council Act of 1892, the Council Act of 1909, the Government of India Act of 1919 and the Government of India Act of 1935. These are the 5 major acts which you will be studying next. So when it comes to the Indian Council Act of 1861, so the basic thing was associating Indians. Who were these Indians? Raja of Banaras, Sir Dinkar Rao and Maharaja of Patiala. You remember these 3 names. These 3 Indians were added to the Viceroy's Legislative Council. Ab remember these terms. I already told you in the Act of 1853, Legislative Council and Executive Council are separated. Till now, there is no Indian in the Viceroy's Executive Council, जो कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया है, जो मेन काउंसिल है. इट इज द लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल जिसमें 3 इंडियंस आर एडेड, विच वी स्टडीड दैट. अभी हमने पढ़ा था कि 4 आउट ऑफ 6 मेंबर्स विल बी फ्रॉम दीज प्रोविंसेस. तो ऐसे ही प्रोविंसेस से राजा ऑफ बनारस, सर दिनकर राव, महाराजा ऑफ पटियाला वर एडेड टू दी वाइसरॉयज लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल. Britishers wanted to show that we are giving representation to the Indians, to the local people. So this was associating Indians as non-official members. इसको हम कहते हैं non-official members. तो ब्रिटिशर्स जो होंगे वो ऑफिशियल मेंबर्स की तरह से ऐड होंगे और नॉन ऑफिशियल मेंबर्स की तरह से इंडियंस को ऐड किया गया. तो 2 तरीके के क्राइटेरिया बनाए गए कि एक ही काउंसिल में देयर विल बी ऑफिशियल मेंबर्स with more rights, more functions, deliberative powers, voting powers. Then there will be non-official members like Raja of Banaras, Sir Dinkar Rao, Maharaja of Patiala. They were neither representative right, neither had any deliberative powers. कोई क्वेश्चन आस्क करना, वोट करना, ये सब पावर्स नहीं थी, बस लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल के मेंबर्स थे. Again, Governor General or Viceroy could override the decision of the Legislative Council. That is not a new thing. That is very much understandable. There is a fly that is trying to search something over here. That is what we can ignore at best. Then a process of decentralization started. That process of centralization started in 1773. It came to its culmination in 1833, where the legislative powers were taken away from the Bombay and Madras presidencies. They were returned, these legislative powers were restored in this Council Act of 1861. So the process of centralization ended in 1833 and the process of decentralization began in 1861. Apart from that, Viceroy was also allowed to issue ordinances, much like what we have today. Without concurrence of Legislative Council in future, the life of the ordinance will be only 6 months. Then a portfolio system was started by the first Viceroy of India. Lord Canning was the first Viceroy. In 1859 he started portfolio system. What is the portfolio system? कि Viceroy की council में, executive council में जो members होंगे, they will be given one particular portfolio. They will be authorized to issue orders on behalf of the council. तो much like we have ministers की finance minister है, ये law minister है. Similarly, there is a portfolio system. In charge of a department is made over here. So this was started by Lord Canning. So you need to remember this thing. Who started the portfolio system in India? Lord Canning. Then after 1861, the next important act that we study is Indian Councils Act of 1892. Now, if I may ask you, what was that major development that took place between 1861 and 1892? The establishment of the Indian National Congress. Indian National Congress was founded on 28th of December 1885 in Bombay by A.O. Hume along with Dadabhai Naoroji and Dinshaw Wacha. Okay, अब since Congress comes into picture, कहानी याद रखने के लिए आप समझिएगा. Since Congress comes to come to the picture, what will happen is in the 1892 Act there will be deliberative powers to discuss the budget and ask questions to satisfy the demands of the people of India. What you will essentially get is deliberative powers to discuss the budget and ask questions on the domestic matters without the right to vote. तो हर बार हर स्टेप में एक चीज मिलेगी, ठीक है. 1861 में मिला, नो रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिल गया. रिप्रेजेंटेशन इन व्हाट सेंस कि काउंसिल के मेंबर बन गए, लेकिन रिप्रेजेंटेटिव पावर्स नहीं मिली, डेलिबरेटिव पावर्स नहीं मिली. देन 1892 में डेलिबरेटिव पावर्स मिल गई, बट राइट टू वोट नहीं मिला, देन 1909 में राइट टू मूव रेजोल्यूशंस मिल जाएगा। अभी हम आगे बढ़ेंगे। तो जैसे हम पूरा स्टार्टिंग से याद करते आए हैं कि 20 ईयर्स में ये मिल रहा था कि एक एक करके कंपनी की एक एक पावर कम होती जा रही थी, सिमिलरली यहां पे इंडियंस को एक एक पावर बारी बारी से मिलती जा रही है। दिस इज हाउ विल रिमेंबर थिंग्स। चीजों को याद रखने का यही एक तरीका है। Then there was an introduction of the representative elements. ये क्या है? So basically now in the central legislative council as well as the provincial legislative council there will be representative element. Representative element क्या होता है? अभी आप कहोगे कि पिछले में भी तो राजा ऑफ बनारस और सर दिनकर राव को महाराज ऑफ पटियाला को ऐड किया था, that was also representative, but basically that was direct appointment. But now what happened is that in the center viceroy will nominate and in the provinces governor will nominate, but they will not nominate on their discretion, but they will nominate on the basis of the recommendation of what? In the case of central legislative council, the recommendation will be given by the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and provincial legislative councils. So the non-official members that will be selected, elected, nominated, whatever you say, nominated will be the right word. I'll tell you the reason behind it. Central legislative council में the persons who will be nominated, they will be recommended to the viceroy by members of Bengal Chamber of Commerce and provincial legislative councils. Similarly, the members who will be nominated to the provincial legislative councils, the non-official members, they will be nominated by the local bodies, district boards, universities, municipalities, trade associations, etc., etc. It is important to remember that both at the central level as well as at the provincial level, the official majority was retained in the 1892 Act. So the number of members, official members, were always more than the number of non-official members till the Act of 1892. This majority was retained. Now what you get a sense of it कि बंगाल चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स, प्रोविंशियल काउंसिल्स नॉमिनेट कर रही हैं एक पर्सन को, रिकमेंड कर रही हैं वाइसरॉय को, देन वाइसरॉय इज सेलेक्टिंग दैट पर्सन टू द सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल. इट इज समवॉट अ इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शन. But what you need to remember is that the term election was nowhere mentioned in the Act. So this is one fact that you need to remember. If someone asks you that elections started in 1892, it is a wrong statement. Then there are some events that took place at times. There are chronological questions, so that is why I have mentioned it. Partition of Bengal took place in 1905, formation of the Muslim League in 1906, and the Surat split of the Congress in 1907. Thereafter came the Act of 1909, Indian Councils Act 1909. Surat split में, as you must be aware, moderates और extremists दो पार्ट थे कांग्रेस के. Moderates were very hopeful कि they will get so many powers in 1909, somewhat a representative government at the center, but there was nothing like that. So 1909 के Indian Councils Act को हम Morley Minto reforms भी कहते हैं, because Lord Morley was the Secretary of State and Lord Minto was the Viceroy of India that time. ठीक है. अब इसमें क्या होगा? The size of the council was increased both at the center and provincial level. नंबर ऑफ सेंटर का अगर आपको याद भी रखना है तो 16 से 60 को इंक्रीज कर दिया गया था, बट प्रोविंसेस में नंबर्स वेरीड. Now I have already told you that in the 1892 official majority was retained at both center and provincial level. But now in 1909 Act, the official majority was retained at center, but the official majority was gone at the provincial level. In the provinces, the non-official members got the majority. Apart from that, separate communal electorate was given to Muslims. This was demand of the Muslim League. This was the seed that the Britishers sow. Lord Minto, that is why called the father of communal electorate in India. Apart from that, deliberative functions were enlarged. As I told you, in the 1861 Act, there were no deliberative functions. There were no representative functions. In 1892 Act, there were limited deliberative powers that were given without the right to vote. But now, the members were allowed to ask supplementary questions and they could even move resolutions on the budget, except for defense, external affairs and princely states. इनके अलावा किसी भी कंडीशन में they could move resolutions. Now one important factor comes. See, स्टार्टिंग से मैं आपको बता रहा था कि ध्यान रखना है लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल की बात कर रहा हूं या एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल की बात कर रहा हूं. तो जब 1861 एक्ट में महाराज ऑफ पटियाला, सर दिनकर राव और राजा ऑफ बनारस को ऐड किया गया, they were added to what? They were added to the Viceroy's Legislative Council, Center Legislative Council. Now it is the first time in 1909. You just imagine how many years it took. For the first time, an Indian was added to the Central Legislative Council. It was in 1909. And who was this person? Satyendra Prasad Sinha. Satyendra Prasad Sinha was the first person to be appointed to the Viceroy's Legislative Council. He was appointed as what? A law member. अभी हमने एक और एक्ट में पढ़ा था. Who was appointed as the first law member? Forget that. Tell me who was the first, when was the law member added to the council? 1833. Lord Macaulay. He was added as the law member in 1833, and in 1853 law member became full member. The same position, Satyendra Prasad Sinha, the first person to enter Viceroy's Executive Council, was there. He became the law member. Understood? So things becomes easier to remember. अभी आप इस लेक्चर को सुनोगे, लेक्चर को सुनने के बाद, समझने के बाद, you revise these notes. When you keep on revising and re-revising these notes, you understand what are these things, what each word means, and then you will remember the facts very easily. Coming to the next question, Government of India Act 1919. Next act, Government of India Act 1919. Now, like it was called the Morley-Minto reforms, it is called Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Secretary of State was Lord Montagu and Viceroy was the Lord Chelmsford. Now what happened? So just like in the 1909 Act, the communal electorate was extended to Muslims. Now the communal electorate was extended to whom? Why I am telling you this first is because this question has been asked in the past. The separate electorate was introduced for Sikh, Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. What other things were done in this act? First, the relaxation of the central control over the provinces. So now we are moving towards a situation of real decentralization. Central control over provinces is reduced. The provincial and central subjects are divided. Subjects divided including revenues. But this is not federal in nature. What is federal? We'll study in detail in the next lecture what is delegation, what is devolution, how it is decentralization, what is federal character. But for here you can understand that the power is not being derived from the constitution. They are not directly deriving a power from a constitution, from the act. Rather, the powers of central are delegated to the provinces. So there are separate subjects for central and provinces and there are separate budgets for central and provinces. एक separation create कर दिया गया, power को delegate कर दिया गया. Then apart from that, there was diarchy in the provinces. What is diarchy? So now all the subjects will not be at the discretion of the governor. There will be some reserved subjects and there will be some transferred subjects. What are the transferred subjects? These are those subjects that will be administered by governor on the act and advice, aid and advice of the minister. So there will be a minister that will be responsible to the Legislative Council, and you know it from the Act of 1909 itself that now the provincial official majority is not available in the provinces. It was gone earlier too. तो provinces में official majority है नहीं, and minister responsible to that Legislative Council will be responsible for these transferred subjects. Governor will act according to his aid and advice. Then there will be some reserved subjects जिसके लिए governor will be himself responsible. Okay, so this was diarchy in provinces. Then bicameralism in the center. So Indian Legislative Council was divided into the Legislative Assembly and Council of States, which we also call lower house and upper house even today. So when a question comes into exam, that what did 1919 Act do? It established diarchy at the provincial level and bicameralism at the central level. Okay? And the thing becomes opposite when it comes to 1935. In 1935, it will abolish the diarchy at the provincial level and introduce the diarchy at the central level and introduce the bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces at the provincial level. तो वो उल्टा हो जाता है. तो 1919 एक्ट में क्या होगा? Diarchy is introduced at provincial level and bicameralism is introduced at the central level. For the first time, majority of the members will be elected by direct elections to both the houses. And the franchise, there was a limited franchise. Franchise जो होगी, it will be based on tax, property, education. Around 1% people were able to vote only, which will be increased to around 14% by the time of 1935 Act. Viceroy's Executive Council will now be a council of 6 members, out of which 3 will be Indians. So in the previous act, you studied that Satyendra Prasad Sinha was added as what? Law member. He was the first member in the Executive Council, but by the time, 10 years after that, by the time of 1919 Act, we will have 3 Indians in the Executive Council plus the Commander-in-Chief. Is that understood? Then other facts that you can remember is that Central Public Service Commission was established in 1926. It was established on the recommendation of Lee Commission. You can remember this fact. Then there was a reservation for backward classes in Madras, nomination for backward classes in Madras province. This is what you can remember. Then Office of High Commissioner for India was established in London. Some functions of the Secretary of State were given to it. Then there was a proposal for establishment of the Chamber of Princes, which was also called Narendra Mandal. So these are some facts that you can remember. It also provided to set up a statutory commission after 10 years of this act to be reviewed. When was it established? It was established in 1927. What was this commission? You all are aware about it. Simon Commission. What was the issue with the Simon Commission? It was an all-white commission, all British commission. So all 7 members were Britishers. So an act was to be evaluated whether it was good for India or not, but no Indian was considered good enough to evaluate that act. So that was the issue with the Simon Commission. Response to 1909 Act was itself, Annie Besant said it was unworthy to be offered, unworthy to be accepted. Tilak said that it was a sun without morning. Then Simon Commission ke baare mein we just discussed. Then these are some things which you will be studying as part of the next lecture. But as part of the chronology, I have mentioned them here also. We will discuss in detail what these things, how these things happened. The Nehru report came in 1928. They asked for the dominion status. They gave fundamental rights in it. Then 3 roundtable conferences happened where Gandhi went as the sole representative of the Congress. Ambedkar went as the representative of the depressed class. Remember one fact, Congress did not attend all the 3 roundtable conferences. Congress only attended the second roundtable conference where Gandhi was its representative. Then communal award happened on 16th of August 1932. Then in Yerwada jail, Pune Pact happened between Ambedkar and Gandhi, and thereafter the third roundtable conference happened. These are some facts. You need to remember this chronology because at times in exam it is asked कि क्या पहले हुआ क्या बाद में हुआ. That is why I have mentioned them in detail. You will study in the further class. Then coming to the next important act, I would say the last important act, Independence Act तो है ही, but majority of our constitution is based upon the Government of India Act 1935. What did it propose? The primary thing that it proposed was an all India federation. Though it never came into existence, there were so many conditions that could not be fulfilled. But what it proposed was division of powers into three lists. There will be a federal list, provincial list, and concurrent list. Then residuary powers will remain with the Viceroy. As I already mentioned, that the Act of 1935 abolished diarchy at the provincial level. But where did it introduce the diarchy? It introduced the diarchy at the center. Then reserved and transferred subject, same thing. For the central it did, provinces में it abolished क्योंकि वो फ्लॉप हो गया. फ्लॉप पिक्चर बंद कर दी, एक और फ्लॉप पिक्चर स्टार्ट कर दी. तो सेंटर में डायरकी कर दी गई, खत्म. Then bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces, I have already mentioned. Provincial autonomy was given. Now understand this thing. Earlier in the previous act, the powers were delegated to the provinces. But now the provinces, the governors had to work or had to exercise their authority directly under the crown. So the executive authority of the provinces, which was exercised by the governors, now was not on the behalf of the Governor General of India, but directly on behalf of the crown. So this what we call is provincial autonomy. Each province become autonomous in nature. Governor had to act on act of aid and advice of the ministers, which was there in the previous act also, and he had also limited discretionary powers. The Council of India Act was abolished, which was Council of India, which was established by 1858 Act. It was abolished. Certain numbers of seats, Pune Pact में जो decide हुआ था, certain numbers of seats were reserved for the depressed class, that is the scheduled caste, and special representation to women and laborers were also given. तो एग्जाम में क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है कि सेपरेट इलेक्टोरेट दिया गया था क्या डिप्रेस्ड क्लासेस को? नो, इट वाज नॉट गिवन. व्हाट वाज गिवन वाज अ रिजर्वेशन इन जनरल सीट्स. तो कुछ जनरल सीट्स पर रिजर्व किया गया था rather than giving a separate electorate, and it extended the special representation to women and laborers also. Though there was a huge demand for dominion status, Nehru report also asked for dominion status. Dominion status was not conferred. Dominion status was not conferred. This act also provided for the establishment of the Reserve Bank of India, the Federal Public Service Commission, Provincial Public Service Commission, Federal Court also, which was set up in 1937, and the Federal Railway Authority. So these are some facts that you can remember. It separated Burma from India. It also took measures for the safeguards to protect the interest of the minorities in India. CAG was established, the Comptroller Auditor General of India, Auditor General of India. Then there was these developments. Now these developments we will study in detail tomorrow, because in these developments what happens essentially is that the Constitution of India ke developments we understand. From August offer to Cripps mission, to CR formula, to Wavell plan, to Cabinet mission plan, to at least statement, then the Mountbatten plan of partition, we try to understand how the Constituent Assembly's development took place. From each of these development, we understand कि Constituent Assembly का composition क्या होगा. So these will all be taken care of in detail in the next class. For this class, let us end with the Act of Independence. Independence of India Act 1947, when on 15th August 1947, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru famously said that at the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India arise to life and freedom. This light and freedom we can see from this act itself. The Britishers did not give us any constitution. They left it upon us. They did not say कि provinces will have to join us. They left it on them. वो छोड़ के चले गए. But we decided our own fate. In what way? So the British rule was ended, and India was declared as an independent and sovereign state. The abolition of the sovereignty of the British Parliament was abolished, and the office of Secretary of State of India was abolished. Crown was no longer the source of authority of India. There was no constitution given to us. It was our constituent assembly that was deciding the fate of India. There was a lapse of paramountcy over the princely states. They will decide their own fate, whether to join India, Pakistan, or to stay independent. The central legislature of India, composed of legislative assembly and the council of state, ये आपने starting में ही पढ़ा था, that ceased to exist. India, government of India जिसको हम बोल रहे थे, central legislature, the legislative assembly, it ceased to exist. Then only what happened? The constituent assembly remained of the two dominions, matlab of India and of Pakistan, and that will stay as the legislature of the dominion also. Even today, when we say that our constitution is getting amended, या constitution में amendment होता है, तो हमारा legislature उस समय constituent assembly का ही रोल प्ले करता है. इस समय हमारी constituent assembly legislature का रोल प्ले कर रही थी. The office of Viceroy was abolished. Each dominion was to have a Governor General. India chose Lord Mountbatten to continue as the Governor General of India. So the first Governor General of independent India was Lord Mountbatten. And the second Governor General of independent India and the last Governor General of independent India was C. Rajagopalachari. To understand now, in 1773, who was the first Governor General of Bengal? There the Governor of Bengal was made the Governor General of Bengal. Who was it? Warren Hastings. Then in 1833, the Governor General of Bengal was made the Governor General of India. Who was that person? Lord William Bentinck. Then Governor General of India was also made the Viceroy of India in 1858. Who was this person? Lord Canning. Then after India's independence, who was the first Governor General of India? He was also the last Viceroy of India, Louis Mountbatten. And then C. Rajagopalachari was the second and last Governor General of independent India. Okay, the Constituent Assembly had their first meeting on 9th December 1946 and reassembled on 14th August 1947 as Sovereign Assembly for India. Thereafter, we will study in detail the developments that took place which made Constituent Assembly and how Constituent Assembly gave us this constitution. We'll discuss this in the next lecture. Till then, study this, keep revising. Thank you.